The Regulation G ladder has been out for a little over 24 hours at this point, and I wanted to share some of the best cores I've seen so far. And for anyone who I guess didn't see the announcement, Regulation G will be played in a single restricted format, essentially meaning each team gets one restricted legendary Pokemon, which is essentially a box legendary, or the equivalent of a box legendary Pokemon. And to kick things off, we have one of my all-time favorite VGC Pokemon, and that is Calyrex-Shadow Rider. Now, this Pokemon here is absolutely absurd. Its ability, as one, giving it the Grimming Neigh, or the Grim Neigh, I should say, is incredible, right? Anytime you pick up a KO with this Pokemon, it gets +1 to its special attack stat. And when you have a look at this special attack stat here, this is absolutely insane, right? 165 speed is absolutely nutty. And 150 speed is also insane, because when we have a take a look at this here, we go over to the speed tier, we do see that is actually tied as the second, well, yeah, I guess technically tied the second fastest Pokemon in the format, but realistically, the Electrodes will get 0 play, and Regieleki is not the beast it once was, meaning it is essentially the fastest Pokemon in the current format, barring any speed booster Pokemon. So how do I think this Pokemon should be played, and I guess what should be played with it? Essentially, there are two items that I think are really good. Both Focus Sash and Choice Specs are both incredible. I have also seen things as well, like some people are running like Leftovers with Calm Mind plus Substitute. I have also seen like some Citrus Berry out there. I've also seen like Life Orb 3 Attack as well, which I think definitely has some potential. But I do think either Focus Sash or Choice Specs are your ways to run it. And I guess essentially what makes this Mon so broken, right? Well, the first one here is its signature move, Astral Barrage. Essentially, this is Make It Rain, but it's a Ghost type stab move. It hits both Pokemon. And as we said before, with, as one or Grim Neigh, if you pick up a KO, you get +1 to your special attack. And if you pick up 2 KOs with it, you get +2, which is definitely pretty freaking insane. This one also has access to Expanding Force as well, which is very, very strong. And again, if you're running something like Choice Specs as well, I saw guys like NeilVGC were running like Trick Plus Protect. It also does have access to go for things as well, like Terra Blast Fighting, or even Terra Blast Ground, I think is also not too bad. Terra Blast Fairy is also like okay. I've even seen people running things like Draining Kiss as well. You go Draining Kiss plus Terra Fairy. But personally, I think one of the best ways to run it is either one, the way Neil did it, which is like you just go Terra Normal. You just go Terra Normal and you just run something like this. Essentially, like you're almost never clicking Trick anyway. And if you do click Trick, it is nice to have Protect. And realistically, you're probably just clicking Expanding Force or Astral Barrage anyway. But again, something like Terra Fighting, Terra Blast is also an option because you do want to be able to hit, Steel types, Normal types, Dark types. Steel types are like kind of okay because you can Astral Barrage them, but obviously Dark types, Normal types are one resist it, the other's immune to it. So because of that, Terra Fighting is definitely not too bad. But I do think this is one of the best ways to run it here. Spell Tag is also a decent option as well. If you do want to have like a damage item that obviously isn't like Life Orb or Choice Specs. I do think for now, at least, best way to run this thing is just Max. I'd definitely just go that. But realistically, what we're here to talk about are the partners you pair with this thing, right? So, surprise, surprise, I actually think the best partner for this Pokemon is Mienshao, right? So, when you look at Calyrex, right, and in my testing, one of the biggest issues I had was the fact that Incineroar could just start the match in front of my Calyrex, and it could just knock me off, right? Sure, I could lead something like Redirection, but most of the time, I was just trading pieces. And if it was something like, a Citrus Berry, I was never really able to two-shot it, right? But Mienshao is a really cool Pokemon. One has access to Inner Focus, which means it can't be flinched, and it can't be intimidated. It also has access to Stab Close Combat. And that basically just says, hey, Incineroar, I will always like one-shot you. I think in order for an Incin off memory to like have a chance of living the close combat is like max HP and then like 140 defense Impish or something like that. And at that point, close combat plus Astral Barrage is just picking you up anyway, right? So it really doesn't matter. But this mod also is a fantastic Focus Sash holder, but it also has access to some incredibly good support coverage for Calyrex. One, it has Wide Guard, which is amazing in the mirror. It also has Feint 2, which is also really good for opposing Wide Guard users. And then it also has access to Fake Out. And realistically, this is also probably the fastest Fake Out mon you're going to find in the format, right? Because you are Focus Sash, you are normally just running this thing max. And because of that, you go Jolly Nature here. There is like no other Fake Out mon that is going to be good that is hitting 172 speed, I don't think. I know people were playing around with Raichu, but again, realistically, you're probably not even going to lead Mienshao into Raichu. You're probably going just Cali plus something else. But yeah, I think this mod is just incredible, right? In terms of the typing, or sorry, the Terra, I think probably Terra Steel is good. Something that just resists Flutter Mane and just allows you to sit there and just keep clicking your Wide Guards is probably really good. But yeah, I think this is just without a doubt, it's one of the best partners, right? You CC all the Dark types and the normal types that you can't hit with the Astral Barrage. You've got Wide Guard from the mirror. You've got Feint for the opposing Wide Guard, and again Fake Out. You're again probably going to be the fastest Fake Out in the format because I really don't see Raichu being all that good. But continuing on from that as well, we also have Indeedee. Now, Indeedee female, obviously, I really don't think I need to say much. I'm sure everyone at this point kind of understands how it works, but it's Psychic Surge plus Expanding Force, right? You give this thing Psychic Terrain, it means you can't Sucker Punch it or anything like that. Makes it incredibly annoying to deal with. You also have access to things like Psychic Seed as well. Obviously, also it's an immunity in the mirror as well, which is obviously pretty nice. You have things like Psychic Seed, you have Rocky Helmet. If you're really worried about a Moonkiss as well, you can always go for like Safety Goggles. A lot of great options there. In terms of Terras, I think Terra Fairy is just the best way to go for it. To go, simply because if you feel like you need a defensive Terra to redirect off things like Dark type stab moves into the Calyrex, obviously having Terra Fairy is just really good. This one, and once you click follow me, and then from there it just has a lot of really good moves, right? One, you can just helping hand your Calyrex, say here's here's your Psychic Terrain, here's your helping hand, just sweep through, right? Has access as well to things like Trick Room, of course, which is very good in the mirror. If you feel like Trick Room is also really hard for the team, you've got access to things like Imprison, so you can go for things like Trick Room and Prison. At that stage, you do have to drop something for probably like either Dazzling Gleam or Psychic. I do think Dazzling Gleam is nice to have because, again, you kind of want a way to hit those Dark types, so having that is obviously a good option. And again, if you feel like you don't need something like Trick Room and Prison, of course, you can always just go like Helping Hand, and then just the slot, you just go for something like Protect, right? And this one, I think it's, realistically pretty simple at spread. I always just go like this on my NDD. I don't think you really need anything else. It's very, very standard. This one's special bulks are obviously already really good. So making sure it can take the hit on the physical end is very, very important. And really, the last one I want to kind of touch on here for this core is Urshifu. Now, there are a lot of other really good Pokemon that pair up incredibly well with Calyrex, but I think Urshifu is one of the best, right? It really helps you deal with some of the Pokemon that Calyrex really doesn't want to see. For example, a lot of the time, we're talking about some of these Dark types, right? This is a Pokemon where up against Insane, you can kind of just remove it with Surging Strikes. Obviously, Close Combat's also really good. And there's just a lot of other Pokemon that have pretty decent matchups into Calyrex, right? Things like, the Ting-Lus and whatnot. That Urshifu can kind of just sit there and say, I'm just going to remove you, right? Choice Scarf is obviously also really good in the mirror. For anyone who I guess didn't know, Calyrex hits 222. And funny enough, at Adamant Max Speed Choice Scarf, Urshifu actually hits 223. So yeah, shout out to Game Freak for that one. So it is very good. You don't actually have to run Jolly, which is very, very nice. And at this stage, again, I think like 156 is fine, but because it's early format, I'm just like running max. And again, really, this guy's job is kind of to deal with the things that, Calyrex kind of doesn't want to deal with. It's also really good at kind of just like softening up some of the, some of the ones that are a bit more annoying that Calyrex kind of doesn't want to deal with. A big one really is like Terapagos as well, because you kind of can't run through it with Astral Barrage. And a lot of the time, the Terapagoses are playing with things like a Rillaboom. And because of that, your Indeedee is not as good because you kind of have to just constantly pivot it out to try, play the Terrain Wars. So having something like Urshifu that can, kind of just sit in turn one, just Surging Strike to break its, Terra Shell. And then from there, Terra Water can just really start threatening it for massive damage. I do think is obviously very, very good. Moveset, it's pretty standard. It's the same, that you're probably just going to run like always, right? I think you need the Close Combat, you need the Surging Strikes, U-Turn's obviously very good. And Aqua Jet is just a nice last move. Because we do have Indeedee, you could opt for something else in this slot. Even something like Coaching, honestly, may not be bad depending what else you put around the team. Obviously, you don't really want to Coaching your Calyrex, but maybe if, you do opt for another physical attacker, something like, for example, even Ogerborn Hearthflame, I think can work really well on these teams, is very good. But yeah, I think the core here in particular is very, very strong. I guess some of the honorable mentions as well. I personally did test out a Trick Room variant of the team that had a Moongus and... Sorry, no, that's different team. Sorry, wrong one. For this team, I tested out, just Joe, right? Things like, Flutterfish, Tornadus, Landorus, Incarnate. Because again, when you're playing something like Urshifu, Torn plus Lando is obviously very, very good. Having an Icy Wind Pokemon as well with like a speed boost, I think is also very nice. Same with Tailwind, right? Just making sure that your Calyrex is always the fastest Pokemon in the game is very, very nice. Now, moving on to the next team here, we're actually going to touch on Terapagos, essentially because I kind of spoiled the team I was kind of working on before. And this is a core built around Terapagos right now. I think the core is pretty simple. These three here are best friends, right? You've got Terapagos, you've got Rillaboom, you've got Incineroar. Essentially, you give Grassy Terrain to the Terapagos, which, with its, I should probably pull up the other form of Terapagos, hey. Terapagos. Oh my god. I can't type, man. So this one here. So when you got Terra Shell, you don't get hit for super effective damage. So having, double Fake Out, with Intimidate plus Grassy Terrain is very, very nice, right? Because essentially what you can do is you can leave this Pokemon with like leftovers and you can just go like Calm Mind and then Protect, right? And then you go for things like, I've also seen, you also want Terra Starstorm as well. I've also seen people running Substitute as well, which is very, very good. The homie Mario, I think, used it to get to rank 1. So yeah, you run something like this. I also opted for Earth Power as well, because I do think there are games where you don't necessarily want to Terra this mon. And because of that, having Earth Power to hit the ground and throw the Steel and Rock types is very nice. But essentially, the game plan here is you lead one of these two, you fake out, you click the protect, you take a bit of chip damage, you click protect, and then you cycle out using either like U-turn or parting shot. You get the other guy in, you fake out, you click calm mind again, then you protect, and then you pray you back at full HP, and then you click Terra and you kind of run through things with Terra Starstorm. Now, when I played this mon, I did play something very offensive. So I believe my set was something along the lines of this, because I think you do want a bit of speed. At least 113, I think, is like pretty decent. Realistically, if I was to put a lot of speed into this, I'd say like 128. Now, again, this kind of depends on what kind of team you want to run. I'll kind of run through that at the back end of the team here. But yeah, I think this here is probably like the ideal set, or at least the way I kind of like to run it. And the reason for that is this gives you really good speed with Icy Wind and Tailwind, which we'll get to shortly. But again, if you're not playing it on a Tailwind / Icy Wind team, I do think something like this is probably fine as well. I do think the speed creep wars on this mon are going to be real, so even something like that is probably fine. Because even if you're running it for like a Trick Room variant or just like a standard balance variant, I do think speed is going to be very important. I had a lot of games where I just got outsped by the opposing Terapagoses and it was really rough, right? These two here are pretty simple. I'm not going to go too far into the spreads. I think this guy wants Assault Vest. I think this guy either wants like Citrus, maybe Safety Goggles if you're really worried about, you know, Amoonguss. What else? Sugarberry is also actually really good right now. The fact that you can potentially just stay in on Incineroar and knock it off, I think is very good. Because like Sugarberry, then you just like knock off, it's like Clear Amulet, then you can cycle into Rillaboom, fake out, cycle back into your Incineroar, then you get, you know, the Intimidate out, which I do think is very good. Because of that, I'm actually going to put Sugar here. But the sets are very simple, right? This guy, he wants the Wood Hammer, he wants the Grassy Glide, and he wants the fake out. Last move, it's up to you. U-turn and High Horsepower are both very, very good. I do think High Horsepower is very nice as well for things like hitting the Koraidons. Or is it the Miraidon? The Miraidons, I'm pretty sure. This guy, we went through his set before. Oh, actually, no, I don't think we did. It's just like, it's fake out, it's Flare Blitz, it's knock off, and it's parting shot, yeah. Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to do the EVs. We're here. You know, I want to try and make it like a whole thing, yeah. Let's go. So my set I've been running has been this, right? And then I think I run this up to like 100, put 4 in that, and then pump that there. Adamant. Bang. Essentially, this just makes you really bulky and you still deal really good damage with, you know, 116 Adamant. Again, I think going for high horsepower on this is also like a very good option, right? It's entirely up to you and what you want to do. I think Sugarberry, again, is very good on this guy. I run something like this. I don't like playing the Incineroar Speed Walls. If you really want, you can either run it up or run it down. I know people do go for, you know, minus speed natures just to like kind of help you win the mirror. But I do think having, you know, the option here just to go very physically defensive is very good. I've personally been running something along these lines, I think. And having the extra physical defense right now is very good. And again, the ability to potentially just stay in on a, you know, a Groudon's Precipice Blades, I do think is very, very nice. Terra, I'm still torn on the Terra. I think Terra Water might be the go. Terra Fairy is obviously still very good. I don't think Ghost is as good anymore. I actually even, like, I was talking to some of the boys today. I think Dark might actually be decent because I feel like Dark right now is incredibly good in this metagame. And the Fire type is, like, kind of average for it. Like, I think kind of lets it down in certain situations. But yeah, obviously we'll have to wait and see how the metagame develops before we really make a, you know, an adamant take on that. And yeah, Rillaboom's here, you know, he's just going Terrifier, yeah. And then the mons you put around this, so this is kind of what I was hinting at before, right? There are 2 different modes I personally like. I think you either go a fast mode where you're going things like Flutterfish, you know, paired up with like Tornadus. I think Urshifu Rapid Strike is also incredibly good with this. I was actually going to put Urshifu Rapid on this core, but I was kind of like, you know, I don't know. It doesn't kind of fit the core that the other 3, you know, are kind of in. Obviously, Urshifu Rapid's really good in the Fire Water Grass core here, and it kind of helps, you know, Terapagos break through certain things that it doesn't really want to deal with. But I will say this mon really wants a fighting resist on the team. That's one of the biggest things I think Terapagos struggles with is like, you know, sometimes Choice Scarf Urshifus with like, you know, fake out or like just any partner that can kind of break the Terra Shell can be really annoying for you. And because of that, I do think, you know, opting for something like a Fluttermane is very good. I think Flutterfish is incredibly good with it as well. Another set I'll kind of throw out there as well was like the faster set. Where was I? It was like 156. Where like I hit this speed tier here, somewhere like this. And then you actually just go like Choice Specs 4 attack. Because this mon has got like so much coverage, it's actually insane. I kind of touched on it in yesterday's video, but if you look at this mon's special coverage, like it's nutty, man. Like look at what this guy does. Like I'm not gonna go through it all. Its special coverage is ridiculous, right? So like you can just go like Choice Specs. Realistically, probably just clicking this every time anyway. But yeah, this mon is actually like insane. Really good with the Flutterfish. Really good with Tornadus. Even like things like Landorus. I honestly think you could just go like Torn, Lando, Urshi on this team as well, and it's like still really good. But the other core as well that I personally tested was the Trick Room mode with like P2 plus Amoonguss. I did think it was pretty decent, but as the metagame kind of developed and I started getting higher up the ladder, games definitely became a lot harder. Like I did get very high on the ladder. I think I was like top 20 at one stage. But then it's got to a point where I felt like a lot of people started like getting ready for the Terapagos, and because of that, my team really needed to adapt. But yeah, it's still a really, really cool core. So this next one here is going to be around Zacian. Now, I'm going to make this one a bit quicker because this is a pretty standard core that we've kind of had for, you know, most of Regulation F. And that is the Howl stuff with Chen Power, right? And Gouging Fire. So this core here is just Gouging Fire. It's Urshifu Rapid Strike. It's Chen Powered Zacian. I'm sure at this point you guys kind of know how this thing goes, right? The dog is very strong. Obviously, one of its biggest issues is something like Incineroar. And because of that, I do think you probably want something like Giraffe on this team. And then you kind of just use like a Choice Scarf Urshifu to kind of run through it. But this guy, he comes in, you know, he's got his booster energy. Also, Gouging Fire is pretty good into Sun teams as well. I'll kind of throw out there. But yeah, you got this guy here. He's got the Howl, right? You know, he's got the Breaking Swipe to be a bit annoying. Obviously, it has access to things like Heat Crash, which, by the way, I don't think Heat Crash is the source anymore. I think you probably want to go for something like Flare Blitz. You basically can't do like any damage to like some of the big ones, which is kind of sad. And then, of course, like Burning Bulwark's also really good. Another like tech I'll actually throw out for this guy as well that I've seen is people run this thing like full support. Where you go for something like Scary Face. So you go like go Scary Face and even just like drop this here, like the Burning Bulwark, and also go for Snarl. This mod actually has like so much utility, and like if you just got like booster max speed, I think it's actually like really cool. But obviously I do think, you know, if you're running the Howl set, obviously boosting up yourself to do a bit of damage with Breaking Swipes is obviously very, very nice. And the rest of the guys, these are pretty standard, right? This guy's just Focus Sash, right? He's very good at obviously pairing up with Chen Power, with Zacian, because not only does he like buff up this insane attack stat, which by the way, why you like no attack, but it's also just really good into some of the ones it can't hit, right? Like Zacian kind of struggles with things like obviously some of the, like the Steel Touch, right, where you've got access to like Sacred Sword, which can kind of help out a lot. Urshifu also is like a really good partner for it, obviously. Right, Zacian struggles with Steel types, you can close combat it. It also struggles with like Fire types, you can just Surging Strike through it. Obviously Gouging Fire also helps out with, both of those weaknesses, right? Where, Gouging Fire gives you a switch in as well to Fire types, while also, obviously giving you a Pokemon that can also hit the Steel types. Obviously, one of this team's biggest issues is going to be something like tanking hits from Groudon, but of course, that's where you can kind of fill in with the rest of the team, right? And potentially run something like Tornadoes with Rain Dance to help it out. But yeah, I'm not going to go into these sets. They're very simple, right? I think the Chen Power sets they're the same they always have been. Just go Jolly max speed now because of the speed size. Again, we touched on Urshifu before. But in terms of Zacian, this guy here, he's kind of just doing what he always did, right? He's got Behemoth Blade, he's got Play Rough, and he's got Protect. Last slot, entirely up to you, right? If you have a look at this guy's physical stats here, his physical coverage, you'll see he doesn't have the greatest stuff, right? Obviously, CC and Sacred Sword are like the two main ones that come to mind. Psychic Fangs is like also okay. But realistically, there's nothing there that I think is like too important. Because of that, I think Swords Dance is really good. But again, if you like really wanted, like Terra Ground, Terra Blast is always an option as well. But yeah, I think Zacian's pretty simple. You probably just want to run this thing max Jolly. Like you could honestly even like potentially like, does this thing with Adamant hit? It doesn't hit it, right? Like, so maybe you could even run this thing down to like this, right? Like 180, I think it's 190 to outspeed like Chen Power, right? If I go Adamant. Oh, well, yeah, so 188, yeah. So you could go like, potentially, yeah, just something like 188 there. This guy, I'm keeping you Jolly. So you go down to like 188, and then maybe just like play like a bulkier version of this mon, like put some like points here, split them, and then just pump into there. Get yourself a little bit of bulk. You're probably still outspeeding most of the things you want. Obviously you're not faster than Calyrex-Shadow. But yeah, like if this mon gets going with like getting its Rusted Sword plus like Howl or like, even something like the Swords Dance, Zacian's still Zacian. It's still gonna run through, man. Like again, like even like Terra Ground is like good on this thing, man. I think. But realistically, I think you just want something to help out with some of your weaknesses. Terra Grass, like honestly, it's not bad for the ground types. It doesn't help with the steel types. Probably just Terra Water, right? It's just like a good neutral typing. Yeah, something like that's honestly probably fine. But yeah, I think Zacian's still gonna be incredibly good, and I can't wait to see how like it actually performs in the metagame. So we did speak about Groudon just a bit before, so let's take a look at a Groudon core. Now, I think Groudon is, I mean, look, it's in a fantastic spot right now. Obviously, it has all the photosynthesis mons it likes to play with. But honestly, Sun just feels like it's in an incredibly good spot right now. It really has the tools, I think, to kind of dominate the metagame and potentially be the best archetype we have in the game. So this guy here, I think he loves Clear Amulet. He's also a big fan of things like Assault Vest as well. But really, Groudon's just like, it's love and life, man. This guy, he can just like tower into a fire type if he wants. Obviously, Precipice Blades is like really good 85% of the time. Has access to things like Fire Punch in the Sun, which is good. He can dance up with Swords Dance. He's got Protect. It also has access as well to things like Rock Slide, and you guys know the way, right? If there's a Rock Slide, there's a way, yeah. That's the motto in VGC. And this mon, dude, it's just like super, super fat, man. Like you can just like run this thing with like a bit of attack. Like honestly, like 156 like seems fine. Just go like Adamant, and then like just dump into HP. And then at that point, it's like, look at this. You still got a bit of bulk. You can run a bit of speed. I'm pretty sure like 112 is like bare minimum, especially if you're playing with Tailwind, because I think at 112 you guarantee outspeed Calyrex-Shadow. Because I think at 111 you speed tie, and at 112 you outspeed. And then you probably just like pump into Spadef. Like honestly, that probably I think is like one of just the better ways to play this one. Its physical defense is already nutty. And obviously, you know, its attack stat is like insane as well, right? Especially if you pair it with something like Swords Dance. I think it's like really, really good. But the ones we want to play with this guy is obviously, you know, it's some of the abusers, right? It's the Fluttermanes of the world. It's the Raging Bolts of the world. And it is also Rillaboom. So essentially, why do we do these guys, right? One, Fluttermane, choice specs in Sun is nutty, right? If you're crazy with it, you can go like Terra Fairy here and then just go like a special attack booster. I do think Speed Booster is probably the way to go. Like, I'm in the camp of right now, like, this is an early format. I think you just say you have to go max speed on your Fluttermane, especially if you're playing with like Sun, and you just run something like this. Oh, why is that doing that? You run something like this with Terra Fairy. You just go like Moonblast, you go Dazzling Gleam, you go for Shadow Ball, and then the last move is like really whatever the hell you want, right? If you think you need something like Parashong, you go for that. You know, Power Gem's an option. Of course, you know, there are other options as well, like it doesn't get Trick. It gets what's it called? Trick Room as well, which I think is actually like half decent when you consider like how slow a lot of these pieces are. I think Trick Room can be pretty decent. But another like sneaky one as well, actually, that I do like is actually Energy Ball Terra Grass. Now, I don't know if you necessarily want it on this team because you do have the Raging Bolt and the Rillaboom, so you're not that scared of water types. But that is definitely still an option that you can run with, right? But then Raging Bolt. On these teams, I think it just kind of goes back to the old Assault Vest stuff. If you really wanted, you could like slap an Incin on this team and just go like the lefties and just play like the standard stuff. But realistically, Terra Electric Assault Vest with Groudon is nutty, right? You just got like Thunderclap, right? You got your Thunderclap, you got your Thunderbolt. I do think you want Thunderbolt just because like with Groudon, you're hitting so damn hard that you want to pick up those KOs. But then you just got like Snarl for anti-Trick Room stuff, and then it's like Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, whatever you want it to be, right? They're both good. Honestly, you could even like drop this potentially for just like Electro Web and just like run triple Electric if you want some speed control. Yeah, but yeah, this mod, it's the same it's always been, right? I think, again, you probably want to run this to something like... Is that, like, too much speed? I don't know. Maybe, like, 103 is probably all you need, realistically. And then you just, like, run this to 180. Honestly, like, I think this is fine. Just go, like, 104. Yeah, that actually seems okay to me. Because, like, with the Modest, you're still hitting incredibly hard. You're getting the buff. Terra Electric makes you incredibly good. Obviously, Raging Bolt, like, helps you out with the... It's, like, one, it's really good into... what's it called? The Kyogres of the world. And also, too, this is one that really benefits from playing against opposing Miraidon, right? Like, with just Terra Electric, you can kind of, like, you know, eat a Draco Meteor with the Assault Vest and then, you know, fire back a big Draco Meteor of your own or, like, a T-Bolt, you know, whatever it is you want to go for. And, yeah, I think it's just, like, really, really good. And obviously, Rillaboom as well. This really helps out in the Miraidon matchups because you can get rid of the Electric Terrain. Also, very, very good into things like Kyogre, right? Because it gives you a good defensive pivot. I just realized, too, the Assault Vest is going on the other guy. Yeah, this is just lefties. I'm changing the team. I'm sorry. I know what I just said. Yep. I know. I'm a bad person. And then you're just going to be Calm Mind, and you're just going to be the other one, Dragon Pulse. Yeah, I'm changing it. I completely blanked on the fact that we had Rillaboom. Just probably go Terra Fairy at that stage then, boys. But yeah, look, you still hit really hard with this. And again, you could honestly even just go like Life Orb 3 attack on this. It's honestly probably fine. But this guy wants Assault Vest so he can switch into the Miraidons and the Kyogres, but since the exact same one I said before, go Terrify, go the same moves. It's just like really, really good. But again, some of the guys this cause like to play with, right? Obviously, I think Incin is obviously still really good. Flare Bullets in the Suns are very nice. Having, you know, fake out knockoff pressure as well is very, very good. Obviously, any other Sun abuse is good as well. I think guys like Jumpluff are actually like pretty slept on right now. Really fast Sleep Pad is obviously very, very nice. Even guys like Venusaur as well can like honestly have a good, you know, a good spot in the metagame. And I'm honestly interested to see how some of the other Protomons go. Like, maybe you could double Dragon this team as well and go with something like, what's his name? Like, I support Roaring Moon. You just got, like, super bulky, you have, like, Tailwind, Breaking Swipe. And yeah, like, maybe there's a world, but that's also good. But yeah, I think Sun, honestly, could be the best archetype in the metagame. It really just depends how things kind of play out. So, next one here is the Secret Source. Yeah, this is the Rayquaza stuff, right? Now, Rayquaza is essentially just D-Knight, but better in my opinion. I'm not going to go like too in-depth on this team because, again, it's basically just like... It really is just basically how we've played Shenpao plus D-Knight the entire format. I think these three together obviously very good. Urshi Rapid, Shenpao, and Rayquaza. Obviously, standard Focus Sash stuff, standard Choice Scarf stuff. I think these two together are just insanely good as it is. And then, of course, Rayquaza. What makes this guy a little bit better than D-Knight, in my opinion, is access to Clear Amulet. Obviously, Airlock is very, very nice. But the Terra normal E-speeds of this thing are like nutty, right? Extreme speed here. Like when you look at this, right, 150 base attack. Like look at this attack stat, dude. This is absolutely insane. If you ever get a Swords Dance off with this guy, it's GG. You're one-shotting like the entire metagame. But also you also have access to, you know, this this beautiful move called Dragon's Ascent. 120 base power, close combat, essentially flying type move. Very, very pog. And you can also run Protect. It's very nice. Now, one of the biggest issues this mon is going to have, obviously, is how fast you want to run it. I think if you pair this up with something like Fluttermane or like a speed boost of Fluttermane, potentially Tailwind variant, just go 128 and just like dump into HP. Because like, again, one of the biggest things is going to be you don't want to get outsped by other Rayquazas. So like, don't go max. I think you want the bulk. But yeah, I definitely think you want some speed. Just don't go too crazy with it. You could even drop this down to like 123 or something like that. But I like going for something like this. And yeah, like Rayquaza, dude, if it gets up like an SD and goes like Terra normal next to this guy, shit just starts popping off, man. It gets insane. Not to mention, I actually do think like going for a normal Terra is going to be super good into these Calyrex-Shadow teams, right? Because you think about it, yeah, you just like lead these two into like Calyrex-Shadow and you have like a Rillaboom in the back or something, and then like you can just pivot in, get rid of their terrain, Terra normal, like dance up, and it's like, okay, like you just did nothing, and you can pivot out your Rillaboom, protect if you need to, and yeah, you just like start really dealing a lot of damage, man. Obviously too, Calyrex-Shadow is like kind of annoying because it just like, you know, like he can't Astral Barrage you, but like if he's got terrain up, he can click you with Expanding Force. But really, you know, you would kind of ignore it, deal with its friends, and then kind of let Shen Pal sweep through from there. But yeah, look, this is the standard stuff. We've seen it for ages. Yeah, I think Rayquaza is actually really good. So we spoke about one broken horse at the start. Now we have another one here, and that is Calyrex-Ice, or the Ice Rider, if you will. I think this mon absolutely nutty. One of the most buff mons in the game, and really all it got was Clear Amulet. Just look at this, man. Look at this shit right here. Just get Brave Nature, right? Look at this, dude. 238 attack, right? You now have Clear Amulet, so you can't be intimidated by stupid fucking Incineroars. And then you've got Chilling Neigh, which means every time you get a KO, you get +1 to your attack stat, right? Oh, and then you also just have this Glacial Lance move, which is absolutely freaking bonkers, man. Like, Ice typing right now is super good, right? You talk about the two dragons both being really good, unreal, right? You talk about, you know, Groudon being really good, unreal, right? You talk about things like Rayquaza being good, super good there. Terapagos, like, yeah, you can set up Calm Minds. I don't care. I'm just hitting you with these big Glacial Lances, baby. Absolutely insane, right? It also gets access to high horsepower as well. You know, it kind of helps you hit the steel and the fire types that you couldn't hit before. And then, yeah, you just got, like, Protect. And then at that stage, it's kind of just Trick Room. You're just like, yeah, you can set your own Trick Room. It's pretty broken, I'm not going to lie. And then you're like, oh, look at this. My HP and my defense. So my defense and my special defense, insanely high. Just pump it into HP. And you're freaking good, man. You throw, like, a point here. This mon, absolutely nutty. In terms of Terras, I think Water Terra's, like, probably pretty good. Kind of, what else would be good here? Obviously, you kind of just want like a neutral Terra, right? Even something like Terra Grass is like maybe okay, but you keep the fire weakness, which is kind of iffy. I know, I think water's good for ice, for steel types. Oh yeah, ice types, right? Because it gives you the steel and the fire resist. But yeah, this one, absolutely insane. I think you just pair it up with, you pair it up with Incineroar, and you pair it up with something like Farigiraf, right? Farigiraf. Also pairs incredibly well with like Blood Moon Ursaluna. I'll throw him in as well. It's kind of like the surprise fourth guy here. But this sets are pretty simple, yeah. This guy, you know, he goes his normal stuff. You know, he clicks Fake Out Parting Shot, allows one of these two to set up the Trick Room. This guy, he's like, if I'm ever next to Cali or I'm next to Ursaluna, I just got a Helping Hand, right? Again, he's another Trick Room setter. But he can also like go on the offensive himself, right? He can go for things like Hyper Voice, yeah. He can go for things like Dazzling Gleam. You know, you throw a Throat Spray on it, and it's like pretty good. Obviously, you know, you want Armor Tail, which stops the priority, which is obviously very good. When you talk about Calyrex just like potentially folding over to like some sucker punches, which realistically it's not. Its defense is so high, but still, you don't want to eat priority moves if you don't have to. But yeah, this guy, honestly, it's like super sick. Yeah, I think something like this with like Terra Normal is good. Not Terra Normal, sorry, Terra Fairy. Terra Fairy is very good. And then at that stage, it's like, how much damage do you really want to do? Like, you can go like 156. Realistically, I don't know if you want to go like, honestly, you probably don't want to go that offensive. I think bulky is probably just like better. Realistically speaking, I think like you go like was like 109. I think people were going, or was it maybe it was 108? You want to be able to live like a Gambit, final Gambit. You get exactly how high that gets. Yeah, you just go like something like this. Like make sure you at least hit the like 104 in each, and then kind of just pump into there. Like honestly, something like that's honestly probably fine. But then Blood Moon again. This guy, it's the same old stuff, right? I think it's just like Life Orb. You're going for like Terra Normal or Terra Ghost, whatever it is you want. I've even seen people saying like Terra Ground is apparently pretty good on this, but I haven't actually tested it myself. but it's just like Hyper Voice, it's Earth Power, it's Blood Moon, and it's just Protect, right? Like, realistically, get this guy... Why did I type in... Dude, apparently I can't freaking spell here. But yeah, this guy, it's the same old stuff, yeah. Honestly, pump some into Spadef, like, real talk. Like, kind of split it if you can. 100... Yeah, something like that's probably fine. Yeah, go something like that. You just go, like, a Quiet Nature, 0 speed. And yeah, like, this guy... That's Quirky's guy, that's quiet. Yeah, this guy, it's still really freaking good, man. Like, these two paired up together are, like, insane. It's like, it's so good, man. Like, I'm telling you right now, Calyrex-Ice is going to dominate. I think, again, like, similar to what I was saying about, like, Groudon and Calyrex-Shadow, one of the best Pokemon, one of the best archetypes in the format. If you're a hard Trick Room player, this is going to be really, really good, man. And the final core I want to touch on today is Big Bad Miraidon. Obviously, one of the best Pokemon in the format. This one is looking absolutely insane. I've seen a lot of variety coming out of its sets, and I've also seen it be paired up with a lot of different Pokemon. But today in particular, I'm going to put in Iron Bundle. Obviously, any of these Iron mods are really good. I've also seen Iron Moth actually get a lot of play with it. Iron Hands, obviously, is also very, very good. And Iron Valley, surprisingly enough, is actually decent as well as like a Wide Guard mod next to it. But for today's core in particular, we're just going to be looking at Bundle plus Ogerpore and Hearthflame. Essentially, Hearthflame is incredibly good with Miraidon because it helps you hit things like the Steel types. Which, you know, Miraidon isn't the worst into, but obviously having it there is very, very nice. Also, it gives you a very strong Wood Hammer into things like Groudon, which is obviously very solid. Allows you to force a Terra, and then at that point, you know, the Electro Drift in terrain can kind of just, like, obviously threaten a lot of damage. Now, this one does, like, a lot of different items, in my opinion. Specs is very, very nice. Choice Scarf is obviously also an option. It also has access to things like Life Orb, Assault Vest, which I do think are both very, very solid. But realistically, one of the best things I think Miraidon has going for it is its ability to pair up with Iron Bundle. And because of that, I'm going to go with the Life Orb set here. So, I think Terra Electric is, like, okay, but Terra Fairy is probably its best, you know, probably its best move to go for here. But then you got access to just, you know, you go the Electro Drift here, right? You pair that up, obviously, with something like Draco Meteor. And then you just go for something like a Dazzling Gleam, just to give you a bit of spread, go Protect. Again, very similar to what we said about, you know, the other guys that are at this 135 speed tier. You kind of just want to go max because everyone's going to go max and you don't want to be the guy who gets outsped. And realistically, this thing's bulk is really nice. Like, you kind of don't have to really invest that much into it. Probably just split it and dump into special attack. And this guy just shits out damage, right? Harridan Engine here gives you the special attack boost. On top of that, you get the Life Orb boost. And then all of a sudden, this mon's attack stat is a lot higher than 186. Oh, and then you also pair in the fact that you're getting up electric terrain, which is then obviously buffing up your Electro Drift, which when it's super effective, does even more damage. Honestly, this mon, it's nutty, right? And, you know, we're talking about speed size, guys. We're talking about things like Booster Fluttermane paired up with guys like Groudon. You know, we're talking about Miraidon losing to ground types. What beats both of them, boys? It's the guy Iron Bundle, man. The Iron Bundle is here. This guy's got access to Icy Wind. He's also 1 point faster, right? So this guy with his timid max speed feels very PogChamp. But the cool thing I personally think Iron Bundle really has going for it when it comes to the speed control is the way speed works, or like the way it works in general in Pokemon, is if you're, for example, Icy Wind, a speed booster Fluttermane, Pokemon always rounds down, which means instead of being 205, they're actually 204. Which means after an Icy Wind, even a speed booster Fluttermane is not speed tying your Miraidon. Your Miraidon will always be faster, which I do think is very, very important to know going into some of those mirrors. But realistically, this mon here, it can be played honestly however you want it, right? If you want to run it like Focus Sash Max, you can, right? You go for something like potentially just like Freeze Dry. You can smack a Hydro Pump on there if you want to go Protect. Personally, I think you drop the Pump and I think you just go the Encore because Encore support is pretty broken. And also, I do think if you're going for something like a supportive set like this, Covered Cloak is very, very good, paired up with just a lot of bulk, right? You can just go for something like this and Covered Cloak, you know, if you want to, maybe you like split a little bit into defense, but it's probably not worth it. Something like that's also probably fine. But yeah, like in terms of Terras, you're probably going for something like Terra Ghost. Actually, if you're going, no, I think if you're going Terra Eye, so if you're going Covered Cloak, you don't need Terra Eyes, do you? What do you want? You want something that like doesn't just like fold to the things that hit you super effective. Ghost obviously is still really good for the fighting types. I'm trying to think, like maybe even like Terra Steel is probably pretty. Terra Steel you still get beaten by the fighting types. I should have thought about this before. What is it? Is it Grass? Is Grass just the play? Like Fire is honestly even not bad. Fairy. Yeah, I'm not entirely too sure. Chances are you probably don't want to Terra this guy anyway. Because I'm just going to throw Ghost on here for now. Ghost is what I, personally have run because I've been running Focus Sash over Covered Cloak. But I do think a set like this where you're a bit bulkier, you can, hopefully live one attack is very, very solid, right? But again, Icy Wind, it's good. Freeze Dry is also really good into a lot of the meta. Very similar to what we said about Calyrex-Ice, right? Where Ice type offensively right now just feels super good. And then, of course, Ogerpon Hearthflame. I don't think we've actually touched on Ogerpon Hearthflame today, so we'll quickly kind of do it here. You got the Ivy Cudgel, the Wood Hammer. You just go, like, Follow Me, and you go for Spiky Shield, right? Very, very simple. Honestly, I think the set doesn't change. It's just max with Jolly. If you really want to go bulky, you can, but I don't think you should. I think this mon's job is to deal a lot of damage. Especially, too, if you do go up against things like Groudon, which I do think will be very, very good. Because, again, what Ogerpon does best is it really kind of forces Groudons to go for Terra. Because I'm pretty sure, I don't remember the calc exactly off the top of my head, but a Terra Fire Ivy Cudgel in Sun, I'm pretty sure against, like, a max HP 4 defense Groudon was doing, like, 60-odd% when they were Terra Fire, which means if they don't Terra, they just die to it. And then if they do Terra, the double up from Miraidon, like, obviously kills it. Ogerpon's also obviously really good with Wood Hammers into Groudon if they don't Terra. It's also really good into things like, what's his name, Kyogre as well, which I do think is very, very important, right? This team doesn't necessarily need answers to Kyogre because these two mons are very good, but obviously having that third option is always nice. But yeah, this core here is definitely the one I think that I've explored the least. But also on top of that, I think it is also one of the most versatile. Miraidon honestly just pairs up with so many Pokemon that I do think it's actually going to be quite difficult to figure out exactly which one of the best, teams there is, right? But as I said, I am Valiant's another, like, sleeper for this guy, because you can just go for, like, Focus Sash, and then you just go, like, double stab, right? You can even go, like, close combat if you want to wait to hit those, like, steel types we were talking about earlier, but it also has access to, like, White Guard. You can also go for, like, special attacking stuff with, like, Dazzling Gleam and Prison and stuff like that as well. What else does it get? It gets Expanding Force, apparently. That's kind of pog. Even, like, Helping Hand, Icy Wind. Yeah, this guy actually gets a lot of support moves, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it get some play. Even, like, a Fast Taunt as well is very nice. I just don't think you'll see Bundle plus Valiant together, which is, like, kind of one of the biggest issues. But yeah, I guess that's going to be it for this one, guys. I think we covered, like, 8 different cores there or something. Maybe it was only 7, something like that. I guess let me know down below what you guys think. And if there's any cores you guys think I missed, there are other teams as well. Like, I've been looking at some Kyogre stuff, Dialga stuff as well. I think that's pretty good. Koraidon also wasn't on this list, but I do think Koraidon is also a very, very good Pokemon. But yeah, I guess let me know down below what you guys think I missed. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.